Hidden gems. Welcome to the Dark Side of Therapy. This is really episode 1 for our new season. So excited to have you here. I'm Eric Nance, and if you've tuned in before, you know what we do. Our goal is to help new clinicians and new graduates navigate this incredibly complex field we call mental health. And we thank you so much for tuning in. I wanted to do something tonight I've never ever done, and I'm kind of a pop culture nerd. Many of you know that, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. But there are these things that I've picked out in my life called hidden gems. And I thought, why can't I apply that to mental health? And really a hidden gem is something that maybe you've never heard of, but could really bring value to your therapy experience. Now, some of this stuff doesn't have a lot to do with therapy, but I still think it's very relevant. So I'm gonna give you 8 little hidden gems that I found throughout the internet, throughout TV, throughout movies, that I think are gonna enhance your experience. And I wanna start with a really fun one. One of my favorite all-time shows is called Whose Line Is It Anyway? And this is a show that's all about improv. And these people get up on stage, they have no idea what they're gonna say to each other, what the audience is gonna say, and it ends up being just this absolute laugh fest, laugh a minute. Now, here's some therapeutic value for you. If you're stuck in a session and you don't know what to say, sometimes you do have to improv it. And I cannot tell you how this show has helped me in that capacity. Now, not that I'm looking to tell a joke every 5 minutes, but certainly there has to be a next line. And these people are perfect at that. So I think what they're really doing is exhibiting behavior to elicit from another person. And this show does it beautifully. It's really easy to access. We'll put the link in there for you. But you're gonna laugh and you're gonna gain something about how to elicit from someone. My next hidden gem is something that I only discovered, oh gosh, about a year ago. Now, YouTube has lots of great content, and I surf sometimes just looking for the next greatest thing. And one day I was surfing, and I came across something called the behavior panel. About what is this? And as I sit and listen to these 4 men, Mark, Greg, Chase, and Scott, I realized something very important. These people are doing what I think every mental health professional should do, which is evaluating body language. And this is really the crux of their show. They evaluate body language from everybody from OJ to Michael Jackson to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, the trial. We all remember that. And they come on and they say, we're not trying to give you truth here. We're going to give you our understanding of what the body language is saying. And they usually start from a baseline, which means how does the person usually behave? And for about 90 minutes, they each take turns swapping different observations. I found it so fascinating. I said to myself, I got to get one of these guys on the show. And if you've watched, you saw we had Mark Bowden come on, who did a fantastic job, and I learned so much from him. But the show is going to give you background that you're probably not going to get in your basic psychology course, probably not even in grad school, because so many of us are not very good at reading cues and body language. And watching these 4 guys, you get a much deeper sense of how to evaluate behavior. I would say, bar none, probably my favorite YouTube show. I always take away something different. And they have fun when they're doing it too. You know when people are sitting around talking about something serious, but you can see they're having fun and enjoying each other. And these 4 really do. So the behavior panel, check it out. I think it should be mandatory viewing for every grad student. My next hidden gem is a movie. And I'm going to date myself. I always do anyway. I'm going to take you back to, I believe, 1993. And this movie is called Searching for Bobby Fischer. And this movie is about a chess prodigy. His name's Josh Waitzkin. And it literally, he wakes up one day and the kid can just play chess. And the mom and dad are amazed by this. They enroll him in a chess club. He gets a teacher, and he's playing world-class chess. It's seemingly a matter of months. Based on a true story, I believe Josh Waitzkin was the #1 18 and younger player for the longest time, and went on to just become a dominant chess player. This movie is important to me because it has one of the most incredible scenes I've ever seen in a movie. So, like any parent who gets a little too involved, this dad starts to live vicariously through his son. He sees this talent and he becomes absorbed in it. And the kid sort of picks this up, and the movie doesn't explicitly say this is happening, but you start to sense it. So Josh, the chess prodigy, says, or he decides to throw one of his chess games just to see how the dad is going to react. And it is such a beautiful, endearing scene. It's raining outside, the chess tournament is over, and the dad is over here kind of lecturing the kid. You know, how could you lose to somebody like this? And the kid says something so incredible. He says, "Why are you standing so far away from me?" And it just brings everything together. And the dad in this moment begins to realize, I'm living vicariously through my son. I'm putting so much pressure on him. And it's just really neat to see a kid kind of strike back, but to do it so gently, where he's not trying to hurt his father, but he is trying to test his father's love. Now, great ending. Yes, it does end in the big chess match, but I won't give it away. Suffice to say, it is an incredible show of sportsmanship. So Searching for Bobby Fischer, 1993, check it out. Now let's have some real fun. Back in 96, I'll date myself again, I watched a lot of Comedy Central. Those of you my age remember when Comedy Central came out. And I came across a show called Dr. Katz. No idea what Dr. Katz was. I just knew it was a cartoon where all the characters looked squiggly all the time. I found out later it's called squiggle vision. It's actually an animation technique. Well, here's the thing about Dr. Katz. Jonathan Katz, who plays the cartoon character, he's not a real doctor, he's not a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, he's a comedian. But he sounds like a therapist. And he had this idea, I'm going to make a show where I'm a therapist. But here's the catch. All of my patients are going to be comedians. And that's what the show essentially is about. You're going to get 2 clients per episode. And they're going to come in and do their comedy routine, but set to a therapy session. And it is the funniest thing in the world. And to watch them sort of react to their own words and what they're saying in a comic sense, it's just great. And the show for me, it's funny, yes, but it's also kind of heartwarming because I love the advice that the doctor gives. At one point, he actually says to a client who's trying to convince him he's got depression, he says, well, that's your definition of depression. And then the client kind of looks at him. But it is a hidden gem I think everybody should see for the laugh value, but also, again, to see therapy done just a little bit differently and to see it done in cartoon form. The other cool thing about this show is Dr. Katz, unfortunately, bit of an enabler, lives with his 25-year-old son who refuses to get a job, lays around the house all day, and part of each episode is about his big goal to get rich or become famous, and Dr. Katz has to sort of stave that off. But it is a lot of fun, and I think you'll enjoy it. My next hidden gem is a show I probably came across 10 years ago, and I believe it's on A&E, but I'll get the link right for you. It's called I Survived. And I Survived is a show that basically chronicles 2 or 3 people, and it's nothing but them sitting in front of a camera telling their stories of traumatic events they went through. It's just amazing. So you'll get stories of people who survived, for example, a derailing of a train that had toxic gas and nearly killed the both of them. Somebody that survived a lion attack, tremendous episode. Being in a boat and capsizing. And it's so neat because that's all the people are doing. You get a couple of cut scenes that show just a still of something, but that's it. And so basically, they're sitting there exposing themselves. I could even argue this is exposure trauma or an exposure technique. And that's what they do. So as you sit for this hour, you're just learning about what these people went through. And by the end, they'll ask the question, why did I survive? What was it about me? And then they give their reason. I think this is as good a show as I've ever seen for sitting with people who, for that hour, are completely vulnerable and sharing the worst moments of their life. So check it out. My next hidden gem, I just found out about this, and it was actually a client that turned me on to this. And a lot of you have already watched this. It's called Stutz, and it occurs, it's on Netflix. This is a documentary made by Jonah Hill, and one of my favorite actors. He's very, very, very funny. But this movie is all about him and his therapist, who unfortunately has Parkinson's disease, sharing space for 90 minutes, but shot over the course of 2 years, I think, and just having these dialogues. And Jonah is sharing his experience of the therapist, how the therapist has helped him, and the therapist is explaining his process. Now, some people have criticized this for being a little too Hollywood, a little too showy. I find the therapist Stutz to be completely genuine and very, very vulnerable. Now, there is a part where Jonah's actually asking him questions about his life and things he hasn't resolved. And some people would say, well, that's not appropriate. I'm not here to comment on that, because this doctor has nothing to hold back. And he says, look, there are things I haven't solved, and there are things maybe I'm not going to solve. But there's something so honest about the way they do this. I started thinking, I wish we could all do that with our clients. I wish we could all be in a situation where they could question us and sort of present us to the world in terms of what they've learned or what they've gone through. And the same with us. We want to be able to say, here's our client, here's how they've changed, or here's how they've grown. And so we're not going to get a chance to do that probably ever, but Jonah did do this. And again, I cannot give it enough credit. I've watched the documentary twice now and have been just moved by the honesty. It's on Netflix. Again, it's called Stutz, S-T-U-T-Z. Check it out. You're going to get a lot out of it. My next gem is another documentary, taking you back to about 2009, I believe. It might be off by a year. And this one is called Thin, T-H-I-N. And this documentary is all about the Renfro Center in Florida, and it deals with women that have eating disorders. I first saw this on HBO many years ago, and I was awestruck because I thought for the first time, they're actually showing a disease very, very raw. I mean, there's nothing sentimental about this. And it goes so deep as to show some of the women actually vomiting. That's about as real as it gets. But it also shows these incredible therapy sessions that don't look staged. And one of the therapists, Adam Goldberg, I remember, just struck me as so authentic and cared so much. And there's a real heaviness to the movie because you sense these women are struggling with so much. And they've struggled for so long. And some of them probably don't believe they're going to get a lot better. And by the end, we find out some of them have not gotten better. There's some tragedy here. But the unflinching honesty is what really drew me in, because I don't like documentaries that ring false, and I certainly don't like mental health documentaries that ring false. And this one doesn't. And one of the most powerful scenes is there's an alliance that occurs between three of the women, and one of the women is deemed as having too much negative influence, and she is removed from the center. And we follow the phone call as her mom is on speakerphone, and this woman is just crying, saying, "Mom, I'm so sorry." But they do end up removing her from the facility, and it's really heartbreaking stuff. But it's a powerful experience. I recommend you check it out. It's on YouTube. It's on HBO Max. It will give you a perspective on eating disorders that I think is rarely seen. Now, my last hidden gem is a show many of you probably heard about called In Treatment. And this show came out, I don't know, 2008, 2007, somewhere in there. And the actor Gabriel Byrne, fine actor, plays a therapist, but he's flawed. And every show is really just an individual session or a family session, but the show itself is the session. And before I saw this show, In Treatment, I never felt like therapy was accurately produced in a way where I could say, yeah, that's probably how it would happen. Again, Thin did that pretty well, but not for a long stretch of a session. I'm watching the show for the first time thinking, it kind of looks like that. Because this therapist shows frustration, and this therapist even shows disdain for some of his clients. And here's the best part, he goes to his own therapist. So he's modeling self-care. Now, he's also modeling, again, these tragic flaws in therapists, including being attracted to one of his clients, Laura. To the point, he almost has an affair with her. Ends up having a panic attack. It doesn't happen, but he certainly had an emotional affair with her. But very few shows of this intimate nature are going to show you a flawed character. And we realize Gabriel Byrne is a very flawed character, and it comes out in so many beautiful ways. Now, I'm not suggesting any of us should replicate what he's doing, but for me, always suffering from imposter syndrome, always thinking, well, I'm the one that's struggling with this, none of my peers are. I'm watching somebody portray a really good therapist. I'm thinking, yeah, this is how it is some days. And to watch him be vulnerable to his own therapist, I thought was just incredible. And she doesn't take any crap from him either. She's very upfront. And in season 2, you see how their relationship evolves. And I cannot recommend it highly enough. So, In Treatment with Gabriel Byrne, seasons 1 through 3. I know they switched season 4. I'm trying to think of the woman's name. I know she was in Orange is the New Black. Fantastic actress. I don't enjoy her as much playing the role of a therapist as I do other character actress adventures. So again, I'm not saying the show is not as quality, but I think those first 3 seasons are the ones that really hit you. So I'm hoping you will check these out, check out these hidden gems, leave some feedback, tell me what was good about them, tell me what you got out of them, and yeah, if they changed your life like they did mine, please let us know. As always, please like and subscribe, leave some feedback. Thank you so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time on The Dark Side.